and Madhava, as a physician, it's not. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's it's not wrong to say that in the United States, um, we have a for-profit healthcare system whereby pharmaceutical companies have immense incentive to create more drugs. Doctors have immense incentive to write more prescriptions, and we also pay something like 17 times more for prescription drugs in Canada or other first world nations. So we have sort of created this system where our response to illness is uh, prescription drugs, vaccination, and solving the problem pharmaceutically. Is that a fair assessment or no?
It's extremely fair assessment. I mean, we all know this. That doesn't make any sense. We're paying all of this money. The medications we get are the same, but much more expensive. But let's just keep an open mind here. Let's just play, devil's advocate. Let's assume we're assuming a paradigm here where the pharmacologic industry is driving the whole thing. I mean, for some people, it's like, of course it is, Madhava. Like, of course it is. But some people are like, wait a minute, you're saying the drug industry is not here to help us? Just bear with me for 1 second. Like, if you had the potential to cure a disease with a short-term amount of therapy using your drugs, or on the other hand, keep someone alive for a long time taking your medicine, and your objective was to make the most amount of money possible, which option as a drug company would you choose?
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Yeah. You don't want to cure them. You would want, I'm not saying that's what they're doing. I'm just saying that let's keep in mind that that incentive may exist. And I know there are people that will watch this and say, of course, you idiots. That's of course what they're doing. And other people will say, how can you possibly say that? You're saying that those guys are, not making medicines. They're just making, molecules to keep us alive. But we have to keep these things in mind if we're going to keep, look for open objectives.
Yes.
Okay, David, let's just cut to the. What's our takeaway on this? We've been at it for
Right.
a while, and
Yeah.
the piece deserves this kind of attention. But what do you think?
You know, I think that this challenges us to hold competing ideas in our mind at the same time and be able to have an internal balancing system that's also fact-based, right? That's also backed up by evidence and internal inquiry as well, intuition as well, but also evidence. And because that's not always found through official channels. For example, if you go to a White House press briefing, you're going to have the New York Times, the Washington Post. You'll have all these official media sources there. But are you learning really anything from a White House press briefing? Or are you just getting surface level information that has a particular agenda and bend to it? I would
Mhm.
argue it's the latter, but you can also get that from conspiracy videos. So my takeaway from this is that Dr. Mikovits should be listened to. She should not be censored. We should be free to discuss the subject matter of it. But we also have to scrutinize Mikki Willis and Dr. Mikovits just as I would scrutinize CNN. Um, because without that, we're not really getting to the truth of the matter. We're just kind of battling in platitudes and being on our team, whether your team is, team conspiracy over here or team official channel, where I just want to seem rational to the public, because you will be chastised, right? If you take the subject matter seriously. And that's another thing we have to discuss. I think we have to back away from this idea that we're bullying and trying to mock anybody who's trying to look at the subject matter and saying, oh, don't even waste your time with that. Because what that does is it stifles intellectual curiosity, Madhava, which I see is very absent from our institution of journalism in general, to where the people who seem to rise to the highest rung of the hierarchy on, corporate media are people who seem to be the least intellectually curious about these matters. What do you think?
Yeah, good. That was a good summary. I agree. We're not really like a White House a White House, press gathering. I mean, that's like, we are listening to, bits and snippets of prepared statements. That's what we're being exposed to. Like, this is what's really interesting. We have forgotten what real journalism used to be like. And maybe we should put this up sometime, David. I shared with you that old 60 Minutes Mike Wallace interview,
Yes.
Right. Chair of the CDC, right? I mean, that was like, it almost made me feel, and I'm sorry for those of you who haven't seen it, but you're watching this and you're like, oh my God, can he really get away with those kind of questions? The guy doesn't know what question is going to be asked,
Completely unprepared for the question, had to think on, right. Yeah. That's real journalism, real investigative questioning, right?
That doesn't happen anymore, right? It's it's a prepared statement or some like unbelievably, non-committal, verbal, like, what did he just say? No one answered the question. The guy was sweating bullets. This is the head of the CDC, right? And, Mike Wallace came at him like a seasoned prosecution lawyer. The guy had no idea what the questions were, who the witnesses were going to be. I mean, it was amazing. And what's strange, and this is why I think it's very interesting, is because here I am, I'm 53 years old. I was old enough to understand that, interview when it aired live. But now, watching it 35 years later, I'm like, I was feeling uncomfortable. It's like, that doesn't seem fair. He's asking him questions. He's allowed to ask questions?
Right. Non-rehearsed questions, right?
Non-rehearsed questions. And anyway, so here's the thing. Look, in terms of Plandemic, you're going to have to make up your own mind. But please, don't make up your mind based upon, a paradigm that you hold on to deeply. Look closely at what's being said here. There is potential that Dr. Mikovits is, pointing out something that's right in front of us that we're not seeing because we're afraid to look at it. Please, and I'm not saying that, I believe Dr. Mikovits verbatim, but don't throw away her career because she tried to bring light to, a very, very complicated disease called chronic fatigue syndrome. And, her study was published and retracted. That should not be your litmus test for, the validity of a person's career. Like, one study, do not put her into an anti-vax category. She has, come out and said, I am not anti-vaccine. I believe in vaccines. Just clean them up for you and me. So, there's going to be distortion here. It's very, very unfortunate that it's been sensationalized the way this show has been put together. But there's a lot of signal here, and I really appreciate your time talking about it. Do you have any?
Yeah, no, brother. I mean, very well said. Those were major facts, big facts right there. But yeah. But no. So listen, I think in conclusion for me, the importance of this to me, the takeaway is that we should value whistleblowers. We should value people who are willing to put themselves out there and call out corruption as they see it. This doesn't mean that everything they say is gospel, is accurate, is true. But we should always keep that channel open so that people who want to expose corruption from their perspective are free to do so without mass censorship or, just being dragged, their credibility being dragged on the street to the point where now we disincentivize any whistleblower from coming out, because we clearly have a world where corruption is ever present. So without a check on it, without encouraging whistleblowers to come out, throw a flag on the play, and feel free to speak, we're entering a very dangerous and controlled environment. And also the other thing I'll say is, I've numerous times said we should subject Dr. Mikovits to heightened scrutiny. We should. We should also subject Bill Gates to heightened scrutiny. Now, how many times have we had analysis where we talk about his biopiracy in India and Africa, for example? We should watch who we give presumptive legitimacy to, because Bill Gates is not a physician. He's not a PhD. He's not a scientist. Dr. Mikovits is. Mm-hmm. So we should keep our mind open and our ears open, and we should champion people's right to express themselves and to whistleblow and expose corruption if they think it needs to be exposed. And then we make up our decision as individuals and as a society on what we should do with that. But to say that we shouldn't even listen to these people because they shouldn't be allowed to speak is a very dangerous precedent.